Welcome to the She Found Motherhood podcast. In today's episode, I talk with Dr. Pip from Making Mama Well. She joins us to discuss how we can prepare for the transition in our relationship that comes with having a newborn baby. Dr. Pip has an amazing guide on her website called The Well Postpartum Mama. This is a $17 guide to preparing for postpartum. During this episode, we have a great conversation about all of the things that you can do to prepare with your partner, have conversations with your partner about how you can transition into parenthood more seamlessly, feeling supported, and really kind of engaging with each other and communicating well. And this guide will help you do that. So I highly recommend a $17 investment into your postpartum experience and making it run as smoothly as possible with your partner. So check out that guide and we will get to the podcast right after this.
Welcome to the She Found Motherhood podcast. We are doctors Sarah and Alicia, maternity physicians and moms who have been through it all. We want to empower you with knowledge so you can have the best pregnancy, birth, and postpartum experience you can.
She Found Health and She Found Motherhood is meant for general medical information only. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. This information does not apply to every situation. If you have questions or if you've received different advice, please contact your healthcare provider. Always seek the advice of your physician or another qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. The views expressed by She Found Health and She Found Motherhood and our guests are not representative of any of the institutions with which we are affiliated. Some of our podcast episodes are sponsored so that we can keep getting great info out there to you, our listeners. We only partner with companies that we truly believe in. Some of our links and suggestions may be affiliates, and we would appreciate you using them to help fund this important work. Now let's get to it. Welcome back, Dr. Pip. We talked a while ago about mental health in pregnancy, and now we are going to talk about how to prepare for our relationships postpartum. So having a baby is a tremendous joy, but also has some challenges that come with it, both to ourselves physically and emotionally, and to relationships that we're in. We wanted to talk today a little bit about how we can prepare for those potential changes that come up and try to mitigate any not greatness that could arise from that. Dr. Pip joins us from Making Mama Well. If you haven't seen her on Instagram, go check her out at Making Mama Well or her website, makingmamawell.ca. Great info on there. But yeah, why don't we get into it? Preparing for postpartum relationships.
Yeah, so I am quite passionate about this topic because I think it's, again, one of those things that we don't prepare people for in their transition to parenthood. And then once you become a parent, it starts to get whispered behind closed doors with your friends that, oh, did anything like this happen in your relationship? Do you find you're fighting more? Do you feel resentful towards your spouse? And I think really the truth is everyone goes through this a little bit as they transition to parenthood, especially with the first baby, but even subsequent babies, it adds different stresses, different dynamics. And I think it's important to just prepare yourself for the fact that even if everything goes exceedingly well, there's going to be changes in your primary relationship that at times will be tricky. And we know that if you're prepared for that, if your communication with your partner is prepared for that, if you've addressed some of the hot topic issues in advance, you're more likely to go into postpartum with a protective and secure primary relationship, which we all need when we're transitioning to life with a newborn, because it's a bit hectic.
It is a bit hectic indeed.
Yeah. So one of my favorite resources on this topic is the Gottman Institute, and their data has found that 67% or close to 70% of new heterosexual couples will experience a significant decline in marital satisfaction in the first 3 years after having a baby. Interestingly, this data has not been replicated in non-binary couples. Probably part of that is we don't actually have a ton of data in that population. But there is a thought that some of the tension that happens in heterosexual relationships is because of gender norms and gender roles that sometimes put more pressure on the female partner, whereas in non-binary relationships, those gender roles don't exist in the same way. And so the pressures aren't the same. There's probably different pressures, but they're not the same as what's identified commonly in the heterosexual couples. And they have found that in unions where there is high parental involvement of the non-birthing partner, the relationship is better protected. Even if that relationship goes through the same ups and downs as another relationship, if the non-birthing partner has high involvement with the spouse, with the childcare, with domestic duties, the relationship is better protected and there's better satisfaction at that 3-year mark. My piece here is, how do we prepare a relationship so that after baby arrives, we're connected to our spouse, we support each other in the childcare duties and we support each other in the domestic duties so that everyone feels generally satisfied. And by satisfied, I don't think it's fair to say we would feel happy all the time, because that's probably not realistic, but supported, content, safe in our primary relationship.
So tip number 1 is go get your partner and listen to this podcast together.
Yes. Grab your partner, press pause. There's a few key topics that I recommend couples discuss before baby arrives. And if you're listening to this and your baby is already here and you're thinking, shoot, I'm behind schedule, don't worry about it. Talk about it now. There's time to correct and change course. But if you're planning for baby or pregnant currently, this is a great time to connect with your partner and prepare yourselves so that you guys can raise your family in as peaceful environment as possible. So the first thing that I think is important to discuss is sleep, because this is an area where there can be a lot of assumptions and a lot of tension. So the first assumption I talk to patients about a lot is that the parent who stays home does all the night work. And I think this assumption is often made honestly. We, before baby arrives, presume that the parent who works out of the home needs more rest because they're leaving the home. And the parent who's home with the baby will have all this downtime with the baby. I don't know. I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but I didn't have much downtime with my baby postpartum. Babies sleep a lot. Newborn babies sleep a lot, but it's usually in little bitty chunks. So it's not like you're able to get a ton of daytime rest to make up for lack of nighttime sleep. And often the stay-at-home parent is feeling a lot of pressure to maintain the house, maintain meals, look after other children, maybe care for pets, try and maintain some sort of social connection and friendships. So even when baby is sleeping, there may be pressure to do other things during the day.
I think it's also really important to remind people, and you talk about this a lot, matrescence is that kind of journey, that 4th trimester. This is a time where you and your baby are learning to be somewhat separate, but still so interconnected. So I think we don't recognize how much time we actually have baby on us. Like your newborn cannot just be put down independently for a couple of hours. That does not happen. Yeah. We're talking they're probably like on you, skin to skin, or being held or carried by you or somebody probably 22 hours a day realistically. Yeah. And there's just only so much you can do when you have a human being attached to you. And we don't recognize this enough. And I think the partner who is perhaps outside of the house doesn't see this. And so it's a real challenge when you expect once the baby's out, they're going to be sleeping lots during the day. I'll put them down in their nap and I'll get all this X, Y, and Z done during that time. That does not happen for the first couple months at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think if sleep is not discussed in advance, what can and commonly happens is the person who stays home with baby ends up feeling really depleted, and then they end up feeling really resentful. And if they haven't created a narrative or a space where they can have open conversations with their partner about these issues, that resentment will fester and it will linger, and then it will explode and come out as anger or rage and cause discontent and lack of understanding. And when we approach our partners with rage or anger, they're not in a space to listen. And so it causes a block, and then this becomes an ongoing problem. So if you come into your newborn phase prepared for this and have discussed strategies and what will we do if strategy A doesn't work and what are our options, then everyone's come into it from a neutral space. You can, if you find you are feeling depleted, you can just go to your partner and say, hey, remember that time we listened to that podcast about having sleep strategies? I don't feel our sleep strategy is working. Can we review? So then it gives you that platform where your partner understands why this is an important conversation to have.
Yeah, it's so good. And there's a reason we did a course on newborn sleep 101 specifically, because it has nothing to do with sleep training. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's all about preparing yourself for what is normal and what is expected in those first few weeks to months with a newborn in regards to sleep, because I don't think any of us are truly prepared going into that period unless we've been through it before. It's such an important topic, and it's such an important topic to have a discussion with your partner and figure out some way of dividing that and making it a little bit more equal. And whether that's on the nights that your partner's not working, they're up and bring you the baby to feed, and then they deal with everything else so that you can at least get a little bit of sleep. That's a great plan. But that may not be enough. So it's really important to start having these conversations early and doing kind of frequent check-ins, which I think you often recommend.
Yeah. And I think the important thing is to realize there's no correct answer for what sleep strategy works for your family, because every family is different. If the work out of the home partner is a pilot, they probably do need to be sleeping a certain amount of hours before they go fly a plane. If the work from home or work out of the home parent has a more relaxed, casual job that has flexible hours, maybe they can take on more night duties. Or maybe they're a camp worker and they're not home for 2 weeks at a time. And when they are home, they're a full-time night person. And when they're at work, the stay-at-home parent is full-time night person. Whatever strategy works for your family is what works. The important thing is to talk about how you're going to manage things and what you will do if that system doesn't work. What will be plan B? What will be plan C? Who can we call for help if we're both depleted and not functioning?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's some great suggestions. Hey, Sarah.
Yes, Alicia?
Did you have any problems with newborn sleep?
Oh my gosh, I sure did, especially with my first.
Me too. I wish I'd known more about what to expect going into it.
I know, and I wish that I had known to create a sleep plan with my partner.
I know. How can you support each other to get the sleep that you need while supporting your little baby?
Totally.
So guess what, guys? That's why we created the Newborn Sleep 101 course. In this course, we discuss what does newborn sleep look like and how can we help support that sweet little baby to become the best sleeper they can.
While also supporting you and your partner as you navigate this complex, sleep-deprived time.
We talk about how to set up your nursery or your bedroom to optimize both your sleep and your newborn sleeps. And we also start talking about how you can start implementing routines and schedules into your day and your newborn so by the time they're 3 or 4 months, it's well established. Because guess what? That's when they start to really need it.
If you're interested in learning more, head to our website, www.shefoundhealth.com/courses.
We hope that you get better sleep than we did. So tip 1, tip 1, listen to this podcast together.
Yeah.
Tip 2, start talking about sleep strategies before you have your baby or when you have your baby.
Or now, anytime.
Whenever.
Yeah.
Number 3.
So it's really important that both partners feel supported in accessing self-care time. And this is a huge issue that postpartum moms often talk to me about in private and have never mentioned to their spouses, that they feel a lot of resentment that they're home Monday to Friday with a newborn. Their spouse comes home on the weekend, spends 5 hours golfing, out for a bike ride, whatever, on a Saturday, comes home, takes a long shower, has to tidy themselves up. So it's been 6 or 7 hours before they've engaged with the family. And when they're engaged with the family, they're great. They're really engaged, but they feel like they have been alone for another work day while their spouse does this sort of hobby recreational pursuit. And then there isn't a reciprocal setup, either because the spouse is not prepared to look after the children for that length of time, or because mom is breastfeeding and she can't be away from baby for that length of time. And again, this is one of those issues that can seed resentment. And if you don't prepare for it and talk about it, it can come out in an explosion and kind of end up being these tit for tat arguments that don't make anyone feel good. I actually really love the book Fair Play by Eve Rodsky on this topic, because she really helps give you the language to have these conversations within your family unit. And I'm sure we'll link to that. But essentially what I think is important to understand is make a list of what each of you needs as basic needs to function. So you each need to sleep a certain amount of hours. We've addressed that. You each need a certain amount of hours per week for physical activity or exercise. You each need a certain amount of hours of quiet time. And figure out what is equitable between the two of you so that it's balanced, so that you both feel those needs are being met. And in some couples, one person may need more exercise than another. One person may need more quiet time than another. I can't tell you what the right answer is, but you guys have to figure out what you each need and then make sure you are supporting each other in those needs being met. So if you both need 7 hours a week of exercise and your spouse needs that in a 7-hour bike ride, great. But then how are you, as the primary caregiver of the baby, also getting 7 hours of exercise, right? Who's spelling you off so you can go for an hour run every day or whatever it is that you feel you need to feel whole? Because if you lose those pieces of yourself and your spouse seems to be able to hang on to them, that's a huge rift in your relationship that can cause problems down the road.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I know I felt, and I'm not like an anxious person, but I had a huge amount of, for better sense of the word, guilt around leaving my family early on and leaving my baby with my partner, who I chose to have a child with. And it wasn't because I didn't trust him, but it's because I almost felt bad making him do it by himself. Now, he was a stay-at-home parent with me, and I left at 3 to 4 months and went to work. But even that me time, I didn't really start getting that back because I didn't ask for it until probably my youngest was 2 or 3 years old. And so I think part of it is we have to, if we're not willing to ask for it, we also have to question what's going on within ourselves that's not allowing us to do our own self-care time. And my partner was super supportive. He's go, leave. I'm fine. I got this, right? But I couldn't do it for whatever was going on in myself. So I think there's definitely two sides to every story. But making sure that you're having those, again, it's having those conversations and communicating around that with your partner, but also feeling like it's okay for you to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And I think women in particular have a hard time putting themselves first. So I think if it helps your mindset, focus on the fact that it's important for your baby to have a one-on-one connection with their other parent as well. They need to be able to trust that other parent to look after them. And if you're always there to, correct things or fix things or intervene, they're not getting the opportunity to trust that other parent, and that other parent is not having the opportunity to develop their own parenting skills independent of you. And you've chosen this person to have a child with. They obviously have a level of competency and skill and trustworthiness that you decided you care for. So give them that chance. And the first few times you step out away from your baby, it will feel scary. Maybe you only manage 10 minutes. That's okay. We start small and we work up. But you do need that time to connect with pieces of yourself that are more than just mom.
Yeah, agree.
And your spouse needs that time to connect with pieces of themselves that are more than a parent as well.
Yeah, exactly. So supporting each other in that, whatever that is that you need. And that may not be right off the bat. It may not be a 7-hour bike ride off the bat. It may be a 1-hour bike ride that your partner can go on.
Totally.
But negotiating that out and making sure that you're then getting 7-10-minute episodes to go have a nice relaxing bath or read a book or talk to a friend on the phone without being interrupted. So whatever that looks like, start small.
And if you're finding yourself in the weeds with resentment around issues like this, because it is super common, try and chat with your partner during a time that is out of tension. During a quiet time when everyone's feeling relatively positive, come at them from a place of, look, I have been feeling resentful towards you recently. I don't like feeling that way. Can we talk about it a bit? This is what I think part of the problem is. Because when we try and solve those issues when everyone's mad, it just doesn't go well.
It does not.
No.
Same thing applies when you have toddlers. Don't try to talk to them when they're screaming.
Go through the tantrum. Yeah.
What's next on your list, Dr. Pip?
Yeah, so the other big piece is lack of equity with childcare and domestic responsibilities. So these are probably the 3 biggest hot topic issues I talk to parents about. And I really like to focus on the word equity here, because equity means not necessarily exactly the same. It means a fair breakdown of childcare and domestic duties, which again is going to be different from every family. Your neighbors may have one parent who does all the childcare work and that works for them. Your friends may have someone who's split it 50-50. There's no correct way to break down childcare and domestic tasks within your household, but it needs to be a conversation that's had in advance before your baby arrives and adds a whole ton of laundry and appointments and milestone tracking and all the other pieces that often fall on the primary caregiver leading to overwhelm and burnout. Have those sit down conversations before baby arrives, and think about all the things that you guys do to keep your household running. And often we don't even recognize what our partner does to keep the household running. We may see one or two pieces, but we may not see all those little things that they're doing in between or behind closed doors to keep the household functioning. And if you throw a newborn into those unseen moments, no one's going to see each other at all. There's going to be no opportunity for recognition or gratitude. I think a good place to start is just sit down and make a list of what basic things do we need to feel like our household is running, and how are we going to divide that up when baby comes. We can't assume that the person who's home more is in charge of everything. Just because you're home more doesn't mean you should be doing all the laundry, all the cooking, all the dog walking, all the cleaning, everything. You'll end up exhausted and burnt out. So what is the division between the household? How does that look? Does it mean one person does more Monday to Friday and someone else takes on more on the weekend? Do you maybe outsource some of that work initially in the early newborn phase so that you both have a little bit of downtime? Again, I can't tell you what the right answer is, but one of the answers does have to be talking about it in advance, because if you wait until baby arrives and you're 10 loads of laundry deep and about to lose it because you feel unsupported, that's not going to go well.
Yeah. And I know you did another talk or podcast with us talking about like these conversations and what does done look like?
Exactly.
So cooking dinner means planning, grocery shopping, meal prep, cooking, tidying up. That's what cooking dinner means when we say cooking dinner. Laundry means like gathering the laundry, putting it in, switching it over, taking it out, folding it, putting it away. That's what done looks like in our house.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was such an interesting perspective, because it's in our family, and a lot of what we do comes from our family of origin. So in my family of origin, cooking dinner meant cooking dinner and then the other person cleaned up. In my husband's family of origin, whoever was on dinner duty did it start to finish. And so unless we had that conversation, I was resentful because he wasn't cleaning up after I cooked. Yeah. And so it was just, we come with our own perspectives. And so we need to have these communications, and we need to understand what that looks like from each other's perspectives if we're going to succeed.
Yeah. And I think that coming at those conversations on the assumption that your partner means the best is a good place to start. And that those areas where you're butting heads or miscommunicating are because of just different perspectives on what done looks like. And sometimes we have to come to a place where one person's standards are lowered and one person's standards are raised. And we just have to accept that's the way things are going to be for now. And maybe we reevaluate in 2 months. For example, in my own household, I typically do most laundry because I like things to be folded a certain way. And also I enjoy the fabric softener and folding the baby clothes and whatnot. Post C-section, I can't go up and down the stairs with laundry. I can't carry hampers up and down. Our laundry room is downstairs. Our living space is upstairs. So that had to get shifted to my husband for a while. And that's one of the things we talk about leading up to a new baby coming home is, okay, are you prepared to be in charge of laundry? Normally that's something I don't mind, but now it's falling on you. And if we hadn't had that conversation, I may have started to feel irritable that the laundry was piling up and he hadn't noticed, whereas he may not notice because it's just not normally in his vision.
Yeah, totally. For sure. Such a great, and like you said, reevaluating every once in a while as things change. So doing a monthly check-in or a weekly check-in even on how, just a nice check-in. How are you doing? How are things going? How are the tasks going? Do we need to reevaluate? Are you feeling like this is still fair? And especially as you're coming out of that totally newborn period, when you do have a little bit more capacity as the at-home person, or the working person has more capacity because job demands have shifted or it's a different season of their life, reevaluating that regularly is really important.
Yeah, and that's actually a great point that you highlight. Is I like the terms State of the Union meetings, which are regular meetings to figure out where your connection is, where your relationship is, and see what each partner is needing in the relationship. And then also having a separate state of the household meeting where we talk more about logistics, finances, household chores, childcare, all those, nitty gritty pieces, but actually keeping those two conversations separate, because if they bleed into each other, sometimes what's intended to be like a positive State of the Union meeting where we aim to support and encourage each other can bleed into tension around chores. So I do encourage some sort of regular interval to discuss both your relationship and your household's requirements.
And I think another important, we didn't really talk about creating a team. It's probably more than this podcast can handle. But I think when you are having that meeting when you're pregnant to discuss the household chores, start thinking about the people in your life who actually really want to help and support you and what they're good at or what they enjoy. And that can be some of your delegatable tasks. Maybe Dr. Pip comes over and picks up your laundry because she loves folding laundry so much. Yeah. She's happy to come over and do it and drop it off. Wouldn't that be great? And my husband, who's great at cooking, maybe he'll do a couple of meal preps for you and drop it off at your house for you once a week, because that's what they want to do. They enjoy that and they really want to support you. And starting to figure out somebody who can help you coordinate all that is a really great thing, because you are going to have to probably delegate a few things or be okay with them not getting done. And so depending on your personality, one might be better for you than the other, but yeah.
Yeah, and if you have somebody who's organizing a baby shower for you, that's a great thing for the baby shower organizer to bring into the fold, is that maybe you don't need 40 onesies. Maybe what you need is someone to bring you a meal once a week, and you can have that separate person who's outside of you make those arrangements for you so that you're not part of the conversation. You don't have to carry that mental load, and someone will just take care of it for you.
Yeah, so awesome. Great gift, Meal Train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a great app for it that makes it
very easy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll remind people, I think we talked about where people can find you at Making Mama Well on Instagram, and then at your website, makingmamawell.ca. Thank you so much for this really very important topic, because I think one of the biggest stresses I see in my family practice and in my postpartum is those relationship challenges and that perceived or true feeling of inequity, and people not really having the skill set or the ability or setting the foundation of that really trusting, respectful communication from a place of kind of just trying to do your best. So I think setting that up before you have your baby, or as soon as you can after you have your baby, is really an important thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to check out our website at www.shefoundhealth.ca and to sign up for our community for weekly bump blasts. Make sure to check us out on Instagram or Facebook at she.found.motherhood, and head on over to your favorite podcast app and leave a review and a 5-star rating. If you enjoyed this podcast, take a pic of yourself listening to it and share it on social. Make sure to tag us on it so we know to keep making them.